Hi everyone. Today we're meeting with Roger for Transformation Tuesday. We're going to explore and dive in a little bit to dependency on others and what that can look like, and how that could potentially make us feel. I want to thank you all for coming to our weekly show. It's been super, super fun. We're waiting for Roger right now, and should only be a couple seconds. Hey, thank you for showing up. Hi. Yay. I'm hoping that, hey, Roger will be here. If not, I will give him a shout and let him know that there's a problem. He's usually right on time, so hope you all are enjoying all these interesting energies that have come in since with all the moon and all that fun stuff. It's been fantastic and changing. I know the weather here in California has been a little crazy. It's pouring right now. Here he is. Yay. He'll be right on. I know that we've had some internet stuff here, so give me one sec. Yeah, it's like super pouring rainy out here. I'm loving it. It's like nice. Feels like winter and like hibernation, so that's very good. It's like, although my daffodils are coming out, which is super fantastic. Hey, Raj. Oh,
Hi.
are you there? Well,
Yeah, I got a new phone.
Oh,
Hang on.
well, you're flashing in between that and, hey, sir, how are you?
Pretty good. And you?
Good. Can you come a little closer? You
Sure.
seem a little far away. Awesome.
I'm always a bit far away.
Hi. You're not that far away, silly goose. There's no space.
So my new phone, it didn't pop up showing you were live yet, so
Interesting.
I had to search for it.
Yeah, and I had on Do Not Disturb so I can like connect with you. So
Yes.
So let's chat today. We're talking a little bit. We're going to dive into dependency on others, right? So
That's correct.
So
which is a very deep subject.
Yeah, that's more than like a hour conversation for sure.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Unwinding a little bit. I just got home from work. Otherwise, good. Day was good. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. So let's go into it. Talk to me. Let's define what that means to you. How about that?
To me, that is a search for love within others, basically.
Externalization.
Yeah, that's where, yes, that's a dependence I'd like to talk about.
Okay.
Which usually starts very early in our life, right?
Mm-hmm.
We begin to, perhaps our environment, we didn't learn of ourselves properly. So we started looking to others for approval and acceptance.
Yeah.
Okay, I just had a call coming in, sorry.
That's okay.
So that's where we'll start, if you would like.
That sounds great. That sounds really good. So, I mean, well, as children, right, we're dependent on our parents and those around us to teach us, right? So of course there is a wanting to be accepted and validated, right?
Right.
So as we age, or maybe not, as we grow wiser, and we want to switch that to this inward ability, right? Right.
Yes.
Like being dependent on ourselves and knowing that love and everything is inside of us and connected to everything around us if we want that. So how do we?
My volume just went down for some reason. I don't know why. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Yeah, and you do still the distance seems far. Not that you're actually far away from me, but the distance actually from your device seems far.
Yeah, I had an incoming call that I had to decline, so the volume changed then, but I have it cranked back up, so okay. I'll just try and stay close.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh,
Go ahead.
so, and when you're working with people, how do you start by teaching them to, like, it's okay to love other people and want them in your life, right? Just
Yes, of course.
yes.
But when we become dependent upon it, is when there's an issue. We begin to live our entire life focused on other people's reactions and behaviors. So all of our thought, all of our energy is outward. We never get any peace. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Always looking for the approval from others. So.
What about, do you find that people sacrifice pieces of themselves or give pieces of themselves away for somebody else and their approval in that?
Yes. You'll do all kinds of crazy stuff to keep the situation going on in your life, keep people in. You'll do, say a lot of white shadow stuff, things that might appear out of the goodness of your heart, but are to keep people around.
So let's, for people who may not know what white shadow is, or for how you or I would talk about the white shadow, how would you explain that?
Well, a basic example would be somebody that's being very nice, is always very nice to someone. It's typically for personal gain, to get approval from other people.
Or like, you're always very nice to me. There's no personal gain. There's no hidden payoff for you at the end of that. That's just who you are. I know that. But what I think you're saying is also like there's a payoff or a hidden agenda behind that for that person when they're doing it. Like
yes,
an
the
example
approval.
is, Roger, I'm buying you this gift, right? But I want something in return to that. And when you don't give me the expectation, whether that's a reaction or whatever that is on the other end, I'm angry at you, right?
Yes.
Okay. And how about another example of what that might look like?
So along with that, there may be a lot of passive aggressive behaviors coming in, and then disconnection, the separation from that person, maybe stepping out of your life perhaps and going somewhere else where they can find what they're looking for, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have to try and get the volume up because I don't know what's going on here. I can barely hear you now. So
Okay.
I'm gonna
Let me
hang
ask.
on one second. I'm gonna see if I can do this.
Okay. Can everyone else hear me fine? I'm just curious about that. Because I hear you fine, Raj. Thank you. Yeah.
They can all hear okay?
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. Oh, and you sound fine. Thank you. On their end, you sound fine too.
Yeah. So I'm having difficulty hearing you, that's all.
Want me to do sign language?
Pardon me?
Thank you. I said, do you want me to do sign language?
Yeah. Just give me 1 second. You're
Okay.
good at filling space,
Thank you
Margie.
all for your patience. You know, this typically does not happen. So, you know, it's a good practice in him trying to read my mind. Maybe not. Oh, well, there's
Oh,
a,
I reduced the screen and popped it back up and now it's good again. I don't know what's going on.
except all I see is a towel or a something. Oh,
There we go.
okay. Better?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
We'll have all the bugs worked out by next time.
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, it's okay. Like life, that's life, right?
Right.
It's like getting a flat tire. Okay, Raj, so let's go. Like share a little bit more.
Well, I want to talk. I would start out by my own experience.
Okay.
When I was young, I felt there was a point in my life where I felt kind of like an empty bag and no personality. Probably when I grew up on a farm, very isolated. So when I started to get out to go to school and such, I was very uncomfortable. I couldn't relate to people very well at all. So I never had much to say and I was quiet. So I didn't see any reason why people would want to be around me. and I had no concept of self-love whatsoever. I didn't understand that. I kind of just always wanted to be alone. So at some point in my life, I learned to watch people's reactions and how they were to me. So I became very good at feeling people out and at manipulation and control in order to get the kind of feedback I wanted, the approval I wanted. So I would go to extreme measures, like if I would get negative reaction, perhaps I would start going into that person, communicating with them a lot to find out what was wrong, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they were probably just being normal, but I wasn't getting the approval back and such like this. So that kind of thing followed me into relationships later on, and it became very difficult. I would base things on the person's reaction, how they felt about me. I was always liked playing a rescuer role.
Yeah.
I liked women that were in pain because they were grateful, to have somebody around. But I could never follow them out of the pain. When they would return to normal, I had so much fear and such in me that I couldn't go there. I couldn't open up and be free. So eventually I would have to leave the situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and mainly because of your own pain, right? Not because
Because of my own,
yeah,
right?
because of your
I
own
mean,
pain.
a lot of fear and very low self-image. So I couldn't express myself or anything like this. So I became very dependent on that, and it's interwoven into everything. Like if we would do something, for example, like go on a weekend or something, or birthday gifts or anything, if there was a good reaction out, that like set a new bar. Okay, so the next thing would have to produce that same kind of reaction out of the person, or even more, or I'd start to wonder what was going on. So it just became a spiral down. You can't, you have no control over another person's reaction, how they feel about anything, right? But you always think it's related. There's a lot of self-centeredness involved as well. Always thinking about where you fit into the situation, such like this. So, and then you lay awake nights just wondering what's going on, why they weren't all excited or, are longing to be around you.
Yeah, longing to be around you. Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, it all boils down to lack of self-love, and takes a long time to unwind. I've probably just started having a true experience of self-love within the last few years, and my work began probably in my early 20s with rehab. I drank for about 7 years. Ended up in rehab, and then got into energy work later. And I was in 12-step program for quite a few years. That started unwinding things, right? And then the energy work took that to deeper levels. Basically, the self-love, what I've come to learn is that it's just our natural state. And what we need to be willing to do is to let go everything we've built up around that, all our beliefs about ourselves and other people and what love is and this kind of thing. So
What are some simple tools and basic tools that people can use right now to recognize if they're projecting out dependency on others in the relationships, either whether it's personal relationships, work relationships, whatever that is?
simply monitor your feelings and watch what you're doing. If you're always watching for another person's reaction, right? If you base all your behavior, if you find yourself, when you're interacting with someone, if you find yourself doing or thinking about how you're going to be or look before you respond, you're setting it up. This is a false self thing to get some kind of approval or to put something out there that the other person won't reject or feel negative about, right?
Yes.
Anything that jeopardizes our own approval is a good sign. anything that might, if we're afraid of anything, putting anything out there that might jeopardize our own approval from someone else.
What about
But you can,
what about also checking your intent for things? Because this has been a practice that I did, started several years ago, and maybe you did this as well. I'm not sure if we've talked about this in the past, but where, ooh, is my intention really because I am wanting to do this, or am I just doing this because I want this person to care about me, or I want them to nurture me, or whatever that is?
yeah, now I'm consciously aware of that, and I
Yeah.
do that all the time. Years ago, when I was wrapped up in it, I never really thought about it because I didn't know any different.
Yeah.
Um, I just, whatever came up is, I mean, there would be an instant flash, and sometimes you might get a hit that you're doing it for selfish reasons or for own personal gain, but you would typically, you're so desperate, basically, or so dependent upon the other person that you do it anyway. Um, and you override your truth, your own inner truth, right? Just to get your needs met. So,
Not saying that doesn't mean we do nice things for people. I just made great chocolate chip
yeah.
cookies for my friends.
Did you
And
send me some?
I would send them through the phone, but they're almost gone. But I will. I'll have to put them in a freezer
Yeah.
rack. Um,
Of course, good things,
yeah.
doing nice things for people is cool, but the motivation needs to be, it's just something to put something nice in a person's day with, and no expectations, right? Because
Well, and it was
you
equally
got to watch it.
it was equally nice for me, like the joy and love and like going to the store and buying all the organic
Yeah,
stuff and like, the whole experience, right? Um,
right.
and we have a mutual friend who loves to bake, like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's a
And loves watching other people eat it.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I got a video as he's eating the cookie and I'm like, yes, that was so great. Like the
Yeah.
expression was like so fun, right? Um,
Yes.
but it was just for the joy of doing it, not because I wanted him to like me or anything like that.
There can be no expectation of the other person's reaction. I mean, you have to let go. You're doing it out of goodness of your heart, and you let go. And if they don't like the cookies, well, yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally. So how have you noticed that by you changing your behavior over the past years has shifted for you? Besides like recognizing more self-love, but what other freedom have you noticed in your space with that?
One obvious, very obvious one is how other people are around me. Um, they're much more free because they don't feel me looking for something anymore. And it's freed me up to be just who I am. I mean, I can express myself much more freely, so that allows the other persons to do the same as well. I mean, for years, and it took me a long time to realize this, but me being within my own fear and everything shut people down almost immediately. A lot of people I heard from thought I was like stuck up, but I was just afraid all the time. You know what I mean? And I would stay quiet because I didn't know how to express anything. I didn't have anything with me that I thought was worthy of expression. And self-worth was so low that I was always in self-judgment as well.
Mm-hmm.
So all this stuff clears up, and it creates a great freedom around you for yourself and everyone that you interact with. So it's very beautiful.
So if you could, this might put you on the spot a little bit, Roger, but maybe
Nobody's ever done that to me before. So.
I've never put you on the spot before. Maybe name 3 key things that someone could look out for. That could be simple things to start with to help them break some of the patterns, or even recognize that pattern is in them.
One significant one that always stood out to me was that we will have a tendency to bring people into our life that we really wouldn't if we had self-love. So we may bring them in to get whatever our needs are fulfilled, and then we find out we don't really want them there anyway. So watch for this. This creates a push-pull, like a circular thing going on. We might be alone for a while, feel needy, and we'll start communicating with the person again, and we'll bring them in, and then after a day or two or some intimacy, we might feel fulfilled again, and then find out this person isn't even right for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I used to cycle through those things, so that's a good indicator right there. And probably control and manipulation. How do you feel when somebody doesn't react the way you want them to? Or if you feel abandoned or being judged if somebody doesn't react,
or not
there's
valued.
so many triggers.
Right.
Any of your interactions with people that bring up something negative within you, or a longing or a neediness, these are very obvious if you just pay attention to them. You should be able to, people come and go in your life, or relationships, you bring people into your life and they go, friends or even intimate partners. So when they step away, you should remain in your peace, regardless pretty much of what they're doing. So the triggers are often, for me, they were very strong and very clear. Sleepless nights, knots in the stomach, thinking about what the other person thinks about me, how they feel about me, these kind of things. But in order to start pulling away from it, we have to be willing to not do the pullback, for one thing. If you start feeling needy with someone, you need to be willing to sit with those feelings without acting out, right, and going into the same patterns again. Yeah. And this is a scary part, because oftentimes we find that without self-love, there's not really a lot to connect to within. So, you know what I'm saying?
Totally.
It's kind of a void and emptiness, and loneliness and longing. But these are things we have to go into and feel. And it takes some. You can't. This isn't something you can go through on your own.
No, there are definitely support groups out there available to us, right? I mean, programs all over. Great
therapy, energy work, lots of books. Yes, yeah, there's loads of support, and it takes a long time to unwind all of these programs and the beliefs we have about ourselves to start allowing the love to come from within again. So you have to be patient, but
yeah. And I just want to share that we're all. I mean, I don't know that I've ever met someone who has been taught total freedom of dependence and self-love from birth, right? Maybe
yes,
but very close. It still had to break through some of the patterns, right?
Yes, the parents would have to work through a lot of their stuff. I mean, like in my generation, everything was pretty much based on you behaving and mostly being quiet and doing your chores on time and, following all the rules. If you didn't, the love was basically not there. But I mean, this is what my parents learned. They had it probably more difficult than I did.
Children are to be seen and not heard, right?
Yes.
And
for sure. Don't cause any trouble,
Yes, and make sure
behave all the time, go to bed on time, eat all your food. Yeah. So we learn early on that our behavior is if
our
that's
love
proper.
Is conditioned on behavior. Absolutely.
It's conditional, yes, but the love within us that been working toward since getting into the energy work, finding that reconnecting with our natural state, that divine love, or whatever you would want to call it. It's totally unconditional. So that's the difference.
Yeah. That was 2, Roger. I need a 3rd from you.
Oh my goodness.
I when I think of that, I often think of as we're talking about it, sometimes the when we talked about the acts of kindness and how sometimes that can be used as manipulation, and that's a hard one for people to see, I think, right? Don't you? Like when we talked about the white shadow
Yeah, it can be very subtle.
yeah, when we talk about, and that's kind of why I wanted to circle back around to that, only because um, it's really easy to see when someone is like demanding something of you, right? And it's easy as we get adults to say, "No way, I'm not going to do that. Like you can't make me do that," right?
Right.
But when someone's subtly working that manipulation, it can be a little bit harder to see because it feels like they're either doing a nice thing or they're coming at it from a, a good place. But when we sit back and we can feel it, we know it's not, right?
Yes, if you can feel it. You often can't, though.
Yeah.
But it's not your problem. If
Yeah.
the other person is doing white shadow stuff, you're responsible for your own space,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
take the gift, eat the cookies,
Eat the cookies.
say thank you if you want to.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And or
So,
well, I mean, it's different when you and I talk about the cookies, but when you're in a personal relationship with someone and that's happening, there might be a couple tools that you can do in communication, right, with the person to like start working through untying some of those things.
yes, and that would require expressing how you feel about what you're picking up from the other person.
Yeah.
If you're getting the feeling that there's other motives, personal motives behind the gifts or whatever, of course. But it takes a lot of courage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trust. You got to go stay in your own space and don't fly off if you're triggered or something into anger or blame. You don't want to be blaming the other person, but just bring up and express how you felt
Yeah.
about it. See if you can start some communications, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and this stuff goes way out as well. If you're trying to fix other people or change them or
Who would do that?
of course there's often other motives in here as well, right? You want to look good to people, and we've been taught that it's basically a good thing to like sacrifice yourself to help others or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But our job here is to take care of ourselves and keep our own space clear. And so we got to try and let go of all these dependencies. Anywhere we're getting good feelings that have to do with our worth from any connections to people, pull it all back to ourselves and take care of our own space. And
So I
okay.
noticed when I started like, and with you, and we've talked about this before, that when we take care of ourselves, again, I'm going to go back into, it's not the self-absorbed, self-centered thing, right? It's that self-love. When we give that to ourselves, we're actually giving everyone around us the freedom to find their self-love and the freedom to heal. And how many times have you gotten in the way and really goofed things up, not only for yourself or for someone else, right?
Yes.
Because our intention came from our lens or from our perspective at that time, as opposed to like the big zoomed out picture, right?
Right.
And so when you like, okay, we'll use some of your family members when you've gotten out of the way, right, and allowed them to come, because I have chatted with some of them, right?
Yes.
And interesting because they now will come to you and ask you questions, right?
Right.
And are asking for feedback and really shifting, and not because you're making them or trying to fix them, just because you were holding space, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and sharing
So what
information if they asked.
yes, what we often try to do is steer people around painful situations in life. But those painful situations may be exactly what they need for their evolution.
Yeah.
So we can often get in and interfere or probably slow down their problems. Although everything is in perfect order if you look at the truly big picture. But it's sort of, if we think we need to fix people or protect them somehow, we're disempowering them
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is their own, fully empowered being and here for specific things. So we need to trust that they will get through it just as we will get through everything, right? It's easier to let go than if you can look at it at that point. If you think someone's needy, you're taking their power away from them,
Mm-hmm.
seeing them as less than they are. You know what I mean? That's for us too. We have everything we need within us, and we have to trust that. There's nothing from anyone that we need, although it's always nice to have coffee and such, right?
And cookies.
Cookies.
Yes.
Yes, there are the basic human needs, but
Yeah.
intimacy and all, and but as far as love and such, it's all our own responsibility, right? Just allowing it, allowing ourselves to let go of all the ego, the judgments, and everything, and
Yeah.
allowing our true selves to come forth again. What's within us? It's always been there.
Yes, it has. Sometimes it's just shaking the stuff loose, right? So we
Yeah,
can find it.
need a poke now and then, right? Somebody to guide us occasionally and point out where the ego is blocking
Yeah.
us from our hearts again. But
Yeah, and I think one of the best gifts that you gave yourself was coming out of hibernation and being that recluse, and having the people around you. I don't want to say put pressure on you, but kind of like just the exposure
well,
before you started getting into this work was like a rock polisher, right?
I like to say yes. My teachers are constantly inviting me to walk into fear.
Mm-hmm. Kind of
It's
sometimes
a gentle,
encouraging you.
yeah. It's usually in the form of an invitation, right?
Yes.
Probably knowing that if I'm pushed, I'm going to go in the other direction.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I had a tendency to isolate for much of my life, so
Yeah.
those invitations, the learning to trust that I would be okay on my own, was a big part of that. It takes experiencing some of it, going through the stuff. Like, for example, letting go of the dependence, standing alone without drawing people in to approve of us. This is going to take some courage because it's going to be fearful and such. So, but we find out if we stand with it, keep ourselves centered as much as possible, stand with it. We get through the fear and everything, and there's often beautiful treasure awaiting on the other side, right? Things we would never have imagined. If we've never experienced self-love in our lives, it's amazing. It's just the feeling what comes from within your heart is incredible. I never would have imagined it. I mean, I felt bliss and stuff in my life before, but this is nothing I could have imagined the way I feel most of the time now. But it takes going through fears and
layers. Like I know that and for me, and I will ask you the same question. Like as I went through the layers through these and found where those patterns were hidden, they were one could be past life stuff, right? But also definitely program that came from deep inner child stuff and even into utero, right? Where some of those programs had started in this physical plane this time. And so as we're going through that and unraveling it, it's very interesting how the things pop up, right? And how it's like, oh, that pattern was here, but it's really linked down to these deeper layers. Yeah. And that's where having a coach or energy worker or being part of a CODA program or other program is definitely beneficial, right?
Right. Exactly. There's a lot of layers.
Yeah.
This is why it takes so long. Start from the outside and work in. This stuff can go way back. A lot of people believe that it originally comes from, can start at birth when we believe we separated from whatever our source energy is, right? That love at that point in time, which is not true.
No.
We just started covering up, but we come in with that experience. So it can go way back, and some of it we won't even ever know where it came from.
And it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we have to keep up the practices and trust
that
things are transforming within us. And
and it's working on our reaction to those things, right? And recognizing the triggers and where they are, and accepting that that's a part of us, but not allowing it to like control our behavior.
Right. Recognize them and then
Yeah.
stand with them. Yes. Realize what they are. The triggers are typically after a while become very clear. And we'll go to subtler and subtler levels with it. You'll find,
Yeah.
you know, very small things triggering
Yes.
things you never knew existed within you.
Yeah.
But the more you get out of the way, the more fine-tuned you become, the more sensitive you become. So, and the more you're in your heart, the more you feel when you're being pulled out of it or looking for something somewhere else. It's uncomfortable. It's like a dissonant energy within you that's pulling you somewhere.
Yeah.
You really have no need to go, but so you begin to, the preference becomes being in your heart with the inner love, right? So when you start to feel this discomfort, you really look at it very quickly. And then you go back to center and realize you're externalizing again, looking for something outside of you.
Yeah.
And right.
Okay, Raj, anything else you want to say before we go? And I wanted,
No, do
if
we have
anyone
any
wanted to
questions
ask,
this time?
no, I was just going to ask if anyone wanted to ask any questions, and slash, if you want to reach out to Roger, he's very open to sharing information with you. If you need information on books or anything, you can email him at roger@recoveryourheart.com. I think you can go into the comments questions, either on Facebook or somewhere, and ask questions as well. Or here right now, just before we close, and wanted to give everyone an opportunity.
And I've been doing some writings on Instagram. You can follow those, roger.recoveryourheart. Pretty much motivational, inspirational, empowering, self-empowering little poems and such.
They're great. They're really great.
They're fun.
They are really fun. All right, Roger, any more on dependency of others and freeing up your space with that? I mean, I know it is an ongoing process and we continually check in. I mean, we probably check in less and less now, right? Like when I made the cookies, I didn't have to check in and see if there was any malintent, right?
Yeah,
I joke
right.
about that, but I'm serious. Like, there was a time I practiced like everything in what my intention was. And now it doesn't feel that way.
You would feel it very quickly now. So
Yeah.
yeah, you don't have to look at it so much. It's not covered up anymore by anything else.
No, it's just, it is what it is, right? It's like, no, they're just cookies. But yeah, it seems silly to joke about the cookie thing, but right?
Yeah.
I mean, the big joke, like you hear often, after my mom passed away, all the women that show up with the casseroles, it's not because they want to share the casseroles with my dad, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so there was an intention sometimes behind some of the behavior. He was a good looking guy, I get it. But so those are the type of things. That's why I can joke about the cookies, is because it's a pattern that goes back, right? That can be present in us that we don't even recognize. And so I share that kind of in jest, but mainly because when we start really paying attention to just doing things naturally and authentically without a payoff or this benefit that we need for anything that we do and everything, because that's how a lot of people operate, right? And that is those independent interpersonal relationships, whether they are like personally intimate or professionally or in your family. And when we start breaking free of those patterns, it's pretty amazing what can happen to us, not only just from a spiritual level, but also physically what happens to our body. Like your physical body will actually change because the burden of all of that heaviness and people pulling on you is gone. Or you giving your power away, to other people is gone. And so it frees up space not only in your heart, but potentially your hips, your shoulders, your neck, everywhere, right?
Yeah, everything will change because you're reclaiming all your energy again. So instead of it going out to everyone else, it's all yours now again.
Yeah.
So watch. Yeah, I don't think we talked about it all. Watching for typically if we're needy people, that's the kind of person we'll attract
Yeah.
into our life. So keep an eye out on who you're attracted to.
That's a really good point, Roger.
Uh,
Yeah.
Double check inside what's going on. It could be karmic or just to fulfill your own needs, right?
Hmm.
You're externalizing again, but
Well, we're mirroring to
those,
other people. What about control and manipulation when people go into that in a relationship because they're trying to do that with someone else to get what they need, and yet the other person is also using that pattern? How does that typically work out?
well, if they're synchronized, probably pretty well. But yeah, this is complicated. The control and manipulation, like I talked about, I liked being a rescuer. I liked women
Yeah.
that were in pain. So, and I was always afraid of them becoming better or being free. So I would try and maintain the situation so they were always in need of me. And so they wouldn't find something that was more exciting to them, right?
Yeah.
So you want to keep them roped in, and it was often like very subtle,
Yeah.
um, and I wasn't real demanding about it, but I really kept an eye on it, and I always projecting into the future. What if we do this and this happens and that happens, and they find out that this is better over there or something like this, right? So we're never living in the present. We're always looking forward to get our needs met and make sure that we won't lose
Mhm.
uh, what we're dependent upon.
Yeah.
So it's woven into our entire lives. The need for love.
Yeah.
It's probably one of our greatest longings is for
Mhm.
love, but it needs to come from the inside. I never understood that before either.
Yeah.
This is something I've learned in the last 4 or 5 years. Now I
So,
know what it meant.
so I know that words can't, because I've struggled with this, and you and I have chatted about this before. But sometimes words just don't, they can't explain something. But when you talk about that heart connection and that self love, what does that, if you could try to explain it, what does that feel like to you?
It feels like an energy that I allow to flow from within me that just, it's a knowing that everything is just perfect. And there's no dependence with that energy. Sometimes it brings tears to my eyes,
Yeah.
just feeling it. It's
Yeah.
like it's what I've always looked for from the outside. There's no need anymore. There's a total peace, total fulfillment. It's just beautiful. It feels sometimes when I'm in meditation, it feels like just a pure, very pure white light. Um,
Do you have a couple moments where, besides in meditation, because I'll share, I had a moment, and I spoke to a mutual friend of ours about this, maybe a couple of years ago. I don't know.
I just want to say quickly that it doesn't happen to me in meditation
Yeah,
only. This is like most of the time I'm in this with this energy.
yeah.
It doesn't require anything special anymore.
No,
Just
but in the
my, oh,
beginning, there were moments of
yeah,
where it would flash in and you'd be overwhelmed with, that's where the tears would come in, or,
tears,
yeah,
tears. Now it's tears of joy
yes,
from just feeling it. Yes.
yeah. It's just
It's
this over,
there's no pain anymore to be released.
yeah.
Uh, yeah.
It's pretty amazing. It is a feeling that it's really hard to explain. The only thing I could explain is maybe like after the birth of a child, when you see this baby and your whole body is a certain way, right? Or I had an experience where it was just a flash, and I get up very early, right? And
Hmm.
I'm not necessarily paying that close attention early in the morning when I wake up and I go to use my tongue scraper because my eyes are still like slits, right? Um,
Yeah.
and there was this flash, and I could see just a part of me, and I was just overwhelmed with the joy of me and
Yeah.
self-love and everything that I've been through, everything, and the love I felt for myself. And it was one of the first times that it was actually, I could physically, not like in meditation or not walking down the beach or being in the mountains when I felt but this flash of seeing me in the mirror and recognizing me in the physical body on this plane at that same time, like instantaneously, right? With
Hmm.
just this, and it was overwhelming joy
Yeah.
and love, like this sense of just incredible love for myself. And I trust, and one day everyone will feel that for themselves because it's such the greatest
Yeah.
gift that you can give yourself.
I believe that's the direction we're headed.
I do too.
Yes, it's quite amazing. And when you're within that, there's no thought about tomorrow or yesterday,
Yeah.
because there's nothing you're looking to be better or nothing that's needed to come. You're just totally in the moment, in the experience of it.
Yeah.
This is part of the beauty. It's so freeing. Um, it's quite incredible.
Really incredible.
Yeah. Look in her eyes right now. There it is.
It is there.
Yeah.
Roger, thank you so much. I know we'll be back again this week. Thank you.
Hopefully I'll have the phone figured out by then. Sorry for the bugs at the beginning there.
Oh, it's okay. It's totally, that's what happens. We're in the physical world, right?
Yes. Thank everyone for coming. Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Roger, have a beautiful, beautiful day. I'm going to
You
enjoy
too,
the
Margie.
rain. Talk
Thanks
to you
for
soon.
inviting me.
Of course.
All right.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.